We're good. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education Greeneview Local Schools Agenda Budget and Organizational Meeting for January 13th, 2022. May I have the roll?
Suzanne Arthur. Here. Scott Powers.
Present.
Angela Reagan.
Here.
Megan Smith.
Here.
Teresa Wallace.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item 3, the oath of office.
Mr. Treasurer, you would stand, and Ms. Smith, if you would come around.
Raise your right hand. Do you, Megan Smith, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as member of the Board of Education of Greeneview Local School District, Greene County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and thereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office until your successor is elected and qualified? The answer is I do. Thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Signature on the page.
Yeah. You're too quick for me. Thank you. Congrats.
Item 4, tax budget hearing. Review the tax budget for fiscal year 23 as presented by the treasurer.
And as you all know, Mr. John Kinzel is filling in as interim treasurer, and he will present the tax budget for you this evening.
Yeah, the tax budget is required by law, Ohio Revised Code, that every school district have a tax budget that is submitted prior to January 15th of each year. On it, there is all revenue, all expenditures for all funds. And from this, the rates and amounts for levies and any tax issues are generated from this. So it has a value, but it doesn't significantly change much year to year unless there is a new levy, a new development that comes in, anything that is out of the norm. So this one there wasn't that many changes, but this will be signed by the president today, and it'll be submitted to the county, and then they will return it here.
Is that all? All right. Item number 5. Temporary chairman Scott Powers will call for nominations for the president for 2022. Do I have any nominations? Okay, hearing none, I'll say Suzanne. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move.
A second? I'll second. Call the roll.
It's quiet.
Teresa Wallace,
Yes.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yeah,
Motion passes. I'm sorry, it closes the nominations for office of president. So we all agree to vote on the election of the president.
Right.
Mr. Powers.
Oh, my goodness.
I have a call for vote for the office of president.
So at this time, you're going to name, when I call your name, you are going to name the person that you are voting for. Suzanne Arthur,
Yeah.
Scott Powers,
Suzanne,
Angela Reagan,
Suzanne.
Megan Smith,
Suzanne.
Teresa Wallace,
Suzanne.
Suzanne Arthur will be the president of the Greeneview Board of Education for 2022.
item 7, nominations for vice president. The new president will now take over the board.
Right. So at this time, I want to ask for nominations for vice president. I'll nominate Angie Reagan. Angela.
Thank you.
Any other nominations? Okay. If not, can I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second it. Megan. All right. Call the roll.
Teresa Wallace,
Yes.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yeah,
All right, passed is the nomination.
Pass to close the nominations for vice president. So at this time, we'll have the election of the 2022 vice president. The roll call vote for office of vice president is as follows. Call the name of the person you are voting for.
Suzanne Arthur,
Angela.
Scott Powers,
You don't have many options, buddy.
Angela.
Angela Reagan,
Myself, please.
Megan Smith, Angela, and Teresa
Angela.
Wallace. Angela Reagan will be the vice president of the Greeneview Board of Education for 2020.
At this time, we'll set dates, times, and locations for the regular meetings. Regular monthly meetings will be set for, we need to decide on a day of the month
Is
and a time.
everybody still good with the third Thursday at 7?
As long as
I
you
think
promise to
so.
remind me if it moves to 6:45. You can do that.
Same as always, I guess. Third Thursday, 7
Is that good with you, Megan?
at this office.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Call the roll. Teresa Wallace,
Yes.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith. Yes. Scott Powers.
Yeah,
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. And approve the following consent agenda items. Approve waiving the reading of minutes for each board meeting. B, authorize the treasurer to pay all bills as presented and approved by board at next regular meeting. C, authorize the treasurer to make advance draws as necessary. D, authorize the treasurer to borrow up to $500,000 as necessary. E, authorize the treasurer to transfer funds as necessary and report to board such transfers at the next regular meeting. F, declare up to $8 million of interim money in investments as it becomes available. G, authorize the superintendent to be the Greeneview Schools agent for various state and federal programs for 2022. H, authorize the superintendent to employ certified and classified personnel. I, authorize the superintendent to accept resignations of certified and classified personnel. J, appoint the treasurer as the public records officer for a 2-year period beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2024, and designated to receive the public records training on elected officials' behalf. K, appoint purchasing agent, that the superintendent be appointed purchasing agent for the Greeneview Local School District for the calendar year 2022. L, appoint Title IX compliance officer, that the superintendent be appointed for Title IX compliance officer for the Greeneview Local School District for the calendar year 2022. M, authorize the superintendent to approve all staff absences and or leaves unless negotiated agreements indicate differently. Example, personal leave by principals for a GEA contract. And N, board designates its superintendent to be the board's designee for purposes of hearing final student suspension appeals. Do I
Oh,
The
man.
motion
call for a motion?
I had a question. Should I ask that before the motion, probably?
before the vote.
Yeah, before the vote.
So for A, I guess a question, comment. So the reading of the minutes, I think that that's probably fine, as long as they're posted prior to the next meeting so that the public has a chance to look at it rather than trying to read through it really quick. So, I mean, I think that if we can ensure that that happens, then it's fine. It would be a time saver.
That's certainly a practice that we can improve upon. Duly noted.
Thank you.
We still need a second.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I'll second.
Scott moved. Okay, thank you.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Title IX officer, that's pretty standard that it's you, is that correct?
It is me, and then I likely will appoint a designee.
Thank you.
No, I believe our Title IX designee is Jacob McGrath. He's our special education. Or Jacob George. Oh, that was weird. Yeah, Jacob George. Yeah.
Got it.
Any further questions?
We'll call the roll.
Teresa Wallace,
Yes.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yeah,
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and then we need to appoint board members as liaisons to OSBA. We need to appoint a board member as the legislative liaison to OSBA for 2022, and then also one as the student achievement liaison.
Yeah, I still to this
Any
day don't know what
volunteers?
student achievement is for the liaison, but I am the legislative liaison already for the Career Center. So if someone else wants to do it, great. If not, I already have to. So
We'll just put you down. if you
Yeah.
want.
I mean, it's up to you guys. I guess I already have to do it. So I figured I might as well offer.
student achievement liaison, if I'm not wrong, is bringing the students in here to presentations and
I would say,
acknowledge them for their
yeah, that's probably more me from a board perspective, really like when new legislation comes out or when, was it November, we bring policy to the table, that you really look at that with a special lens and ensure that you are staying on top of student achievement, probably dialoguing with me more about student achievement as well.
I said legislative.
Oh, you said legislative.
He's
said
asking about student
Oh.
achievement.
He's
I-
asking us.
Yeah, so no, like really that's my responsibility. Yeah, it's from a policy level, from a legislative level, things that are coming down the pike, what OSBA may be reporting on. An example is there's just new legislation that came out that also waived the third grade reading guarantee. Again,
Right.
for this year. So
I don't mind
stuff like
doing that. And you could help me know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
It'd be a good thing for me.
Okay.
Okay.
It's really, like you just said, the student achievement is from the standpoint of how you're evaluated as a district with the students.
Okay.
Even though we haven't had a true report
I'm
card. in a
not sure
while.
that we have fully understood that.
No, I mean, the
I'm
way,
not sure
the way the
because-
predecessors had already done it was,
Yeah, so-
be interactive with
It
each
sounds
of the
like something I
buildings and
should do.
bringing people in
Yeah.
to show off their achievements. That's the way it
Yeah.
Probably
had been
Okay.
presented in the
Exactly.
past.
All right,
I'll move.
all right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks.
Teresa Wallace,
Yes.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yep.
Motion passes 5-0.
And at this time, we will adjourn the budget and organizational meeting. We'll have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Teresa Wallace,
Yes.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yeah.
Motion passes 5-0. Adjourn 7
Thank you.
o'clock.
Thank you. All right. All right. All right, at this time, I want to call the January 13th, 2022 Greeneview Board of Education meeting to order. Call the roll.
Suzanne Arthur,
Here.
Scott Powers,
Present.
Angela Reagan.
Here.
Megan Smith.
Here.
Teresa Wallace.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And we'll do the pledge of allegiance again. We've already done.
We
it.
don't need to.
All right. At this time, do we have any invited guests?
We do not.
Not tonight, okay. And is there anyone who wishes to have public participation? No one indicated that they did that. No. Okay. All right. So item 4, approve the agenda. There is an addendum to the agenda for personnel.
Yes, there's just one item added to personnel to approve a substitute teacher.
Okay. Right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? And a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. Call the roll.
Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith. Yes. Scott Powers,
Yeah.
Teresa Wallace.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. 5, presentation, Greeneview Local Schools Communication.
All right, board members, for this evening's presentation, Ms. Britt DeWitt as the communications coordinator, as well as Thomas Davis, I believe, is also going to present to you our communications planning thus far. Welcome.
Thanks. Dr. Woodruff said so. I'm Britt DeWitt. I have been in the district. This is year 8. So up until now, I have been teaching high school English. And then this summer accepted the position that I'm in now, which is half communications, half as a high school guidance counselor. So I'm going to kind of give some of the background of where we've been and where we're going and that kind of thing. As we kind of met this summer, my position kind of started before the school year. We were talking through, Dr. Woodruff and I spent some time figuring out what communications was really going to look like for us. Up until this point, communications has been a part of the superintendent's position, and the position was established. And so when we start to look at how can we expand this, I spent some time looking at other communications programs, working with some of the like national organizations that talk about public relations, trying to lay out a comprehensive plan for what communication looks like. Most of the time when we think of communications, the first thing you think of is social media, and just the idea of post more. Like we just want to see more, post more. And the further we went, the more we found out that there was a lot more behind the scenes. So I got to go with the admin team to the admin retreat in August. And the first thing that happened at that admin retreat was that there was a presentation on communication, which was super exciting. I didn't know it was coming. It was from a company who does crisis communications specifically, but they do a lot in working with attorneys and educators and companies and how can you best communicate a message. And so one of the things that really struck me from that communications is that the speaker said to win at communications, you must show consistency, transparency, responsiveness, speed, professionalism, and being human. And so these kind of set up the core for me of how are we going to make this look. He also talked about knowledge is power. Your audience will panic when they don't know what's going on. that perception becomes reality. So even if I feel like I'm doing enough, if other people don't feel like it's happening, then it kind of becomes the way that it is. And then that a reservoir of trust and goodwill is vital. So the more that we can build ahead of time when we get to a situation, especially from the idea of like crisis communications, if you have already built, this is where it's going to come from, this is what we're saying, we are truthful when we say the things we say, then when you get to the point that, what do? I'm panicking, then they're going to trust more of what you have to say. So when we look at this in practicality, the idea became, okay, when we talk about communications, most of the time, communications is talking with the community, talking with social media, like on social media or things we send home. But before we look out, we need to look in. And so we talked about this idea of an internal versus an external audience. So before I can take things out to the world, first I need to take care of my own house. And so the reality was an uninformed staff can obfuscate or blur an intended message, sometimes even resent not being made aware of communications to other school stakeholders. And so we kind of looked at, before we look out, what can we do with our staff? And so the objective became build a strong basis of support from internal staff by providing opportunities for staff members to feel more connected across the district, which allows for ripple effects within our buildings and our community as a whole. Because if you have a district like Greeneview, where a parent hears something and they don't know what's happening, and they happen to run into their third grade teacher at Dollar General, they're going to turn to that person first as the what's happening. And if that person doesn't then feel informed, then it's going to ripple from there. So if we can empower our staff, it does more than if I just like spout it from Facebook. So with that in mind, with the goal being a connected staff that feels valued, this summer I presented this idea of a weekly update, essentially. And so when I presented it to Dr. Woodruff, this was generally the idea. It comes out every week. Let's do it on Mondays, so it's preparing you for the week instead of reflecting on the week with everything else. I'll include pictures. If Dr. Woodruff wants to be involved, we can include a note. If someone's retiring, cool, we can include that information there. That's generally kind of the idea, even in some of the practicality of like the parking lot's going to be closed, like, hey, park over here. And especially within our district, the way that things are set up physically, we're kind of separated from each other, and it can feel that way in the buildings. And so how can we connect those buildings together? So we introduced the Rampage. So I need to hat tip to Danny Klosterman, our English teacher at the high school. When I was talking about this idea of a newsletter, it was like, what do we call it? It needs to have a name. Danny was like, I've been sitting on this. I've been holding it for this moment. The Rampage, it just worked. So he gave me his blessing to use the Rampage. I said, as long as every time I talk about it, I will give you credit. So doing that, we introduced the Rampage. So the Rampage comes out every Monday morning. It looks like this. It's usually a 2-page document. It includes a note from Dr. Woodruff, so I've appreciated that. That's been a cool way to hear communications from the superintendent every week. So it's got a note from Dr. Woodruff. It's got our birthdays across the district. It includes our week at a glance of what's happening both internally, if we've got like an assembly, and externally, including our like middle school and high school sports or anything like that. And then any of the like photos, and even in the example I provided here of like Wednesday's the first day of fall. So like some of the things that are coming up, even when we go on break. So like over Christmas break, when we were off, I included like a 1-pager that still has the birthdays, the week at a glance. I've gotten more adventurous and have started doing like holiday layouts, like going with like the theme of what's happening. So we've been doing the Rampage. And so before we left for Christmas break, I included in the email when I sent out the Rampage a couple times a form for staff to bring feedback. What do you think? What's going well? What do we do differently? And some of the things that they included were, so happy the Rampage was started up. It's good to know what's going on in other buildings. It connects the 3 buildings. We like hearing from Dr. Woodruff. Keep doing what you're doing. It's nice to know what's going on around the district. It's fun to read what's going on. I enjoy the pictures. It makes me feel more in tune with what's going on everywhere. Thanks for the Rampage. It's something I feel is needed. Okay, so we've been doing the internal work. Now, what does it look like in the external work? If we look at the same qualifications, consistency, transparency, responsiveness, speed, professionalism, and like being a human, then the same things apply outward. So when I look at consistency, the week at a glance seemed to go over well within the staff, and people were kind of asking, even like the spouses of staff members being like, hey, can you send me the newsletter just so I can get the week at a glance? And so I started pulling that from the Rampage, making sure that it involved external, not like an internal staff meeting. And that is now posted every Monday at 9 a.m. So we've got that it kind of builds, this is what to look for. When we talk about posting to the website, when you post news articles, they all look the same, but you're starting to build this idea of not only do you know where it's coming from, you know that it's going to look the same, it's going to feel the same, it's going to be consistently coming from the same perspective. Another piece of this is the way that we have sent out some postcards. So one of the requirements or expectations, I guess, is really the guidelines towards my position in communications was to do quarterly newsletters and an annual newsletter. And so when we start talking about what does a newsletter look like when we send it out, we kind of had the conversation of you get a lot of stuff in the mail. If it's reading intensive and you feel like you don't really trust what's coming from the school district anyways, we're just going to pitch it. So how can we be more engaging? And so the idea was that we would do a quarterly postcard that would be photos on the front and upcoming events for the next quarter on the back, and kind of build that consistency that they know when I get something from Greeneview, it's going to be worth my time to look at, to invest in, it's going to be helpful. So that will end up, I actually have a sneak peek because we're sending out the second quarter one. But that's the second quarter one that went out today. And then in August, before we go back for the next school year, then we'll send out an annual newsletter that has more text-based and is able to provide some of what happened the year before and what is coming up in the year afterwards. Then not just in look and feel, yeah.
On your newsletters,
Yeah.
who are they mailed to? Are they mailed to parents of active students, or are they just mailed to zip codes? Or
They are to Greeneview families. So, yeah.
Okay.
So it should
I
go
don't
to,
remember because the pictures look familiar because I've seen them on the website. So I
Yeah.
don't remember if I got the mailer or not.
yeah.
But if they're to Greeneview families, then yeah.
Yeah. So it's addressed to Greeneview families. We grouped it by address so that if you've got 3 kids in the district,
Yeah.
it just goes to that. So then the last thing in this idea of consistency, we were looking not just in look and feel, but also in knowing where something is coming from. So Mr. Davis and I and Dr. Woodruff put together this communication matrix that kind of gives an idea of what to expect from something. So if there's an emergency alert, you know that if it's coming from Parent Square, or it's coming from a one call, it's not going to be posted to social media. I'm not going to say, hey, there's a lockdown at the high school. Follow us on Facebook for more information. That kind of situation where we kind of show you more of where things come from. So I'm gonna hand it to Mr. Davis for a minute here.
So, and that is why we brought in Crash Course. So with consistency, we were trying to make sure we've reached our folks. And so our parents that the students actually came here, we needed accurate information. So we pull it from our student information, which is the same place that our parents fill out their online forms. So this ties in with that and allows us to reach grade levels. It allows us to reach building levels. It also is one place to always find those that information rather than the website or social media or anything like that. Those specific pieces that you need as a parent are always in here. And that is that communication between you and the teacher, you and the principal, the building with you, specific documentations. So we were looking for one place that would grow with our district as everything goes online and as everything goes, your online forms and everything like that. So that's why we brought in this. That's why we're going to consistently use this. It's one place that you can find all the information. That's the kind of point of it. The same with the calendar and files in that main feed. So it gives the district that social media feel, but just for us, not for everyone else. So, and we did change the website. So we made it, we gave it a fresh look. So a little bit cleaner, not so busy, which is kind of what we were going for. So the website is more of a, you can look at Greneview as a community member, but that's why we have parents for. If you're a parent, you get those more detailed documents and those detailed information that's now posted versus the website that was getting back. So.
I would just like to say that the Parent Square notifications are incredible. And the fact that I've got one here and one at the Career Center both, but I still get notifications that are geared toward Veronica, even though she doesn't go to school here. It has been so helpful, like from deadlines and auditions and where they're supposed to be, because she wouldn't tell me. So, I mean, it's been really great. So I don't know, like when one graduates next year, I hope that we'll still get the same notifications, but it's been extremely helpful. So thank you.
Make another comment.
Sure.
So kind of one reason I was asking about the newsletter or the postcard, I don't think I got that, but because we're in Xenia district, I do get a Xenia flyer. And because I still have to vote for Xenia, it's kind of that loophole, even though I can open enroll my kids here, I can't vote for you guys, for example. So I still vote in Xenia. It's probably just like some state level thing. So, are you considering about sending something out to the community once a year and kind of keep them involved in what's going on? Like if you're talking about looking back, so you're working on like athletic buildings and bus transportation or the buildings and their stuff, sending something out to the community as a voter is like, I have family in the district that don't necessarily have kids in the district. Kind of keeping them covered. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Right, so then when we kind of look at the things that I had listed, the other piece is just kind of this like being human. So beyond just reporting what's happening, we've had some posts of like, make it a great weekend, Greeneview, or like the last day before the end of the year of like, we'll see you next year, of just like some of the ways that we can use the information that we have, engage people beyond just reporting information. So the last thing we've got for you, this is on the website. I posted it to social media last week, but I've got a lot of pictures from being in each of the buildings and some of the events, and not all of them end up being shared. So I put together a like semester in review kind of thing from the last semester. So I can answer any questions when we're done with it, but it's like a 3-minute little thing. So we'll do that. And then we'll be done.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
real quick? So I got to attend the OSBA conference over the weekend,
Fun.
and yes, that was so
I'm
great.
sure, yeah, I'm sure you learned a lot.
Yeah, I really did actually. But one of the things that they had kind of said you should maybe think about is allowing comments, just because that can kind of spiral and then it's on your page and like if you're not responding to them. So maybe just something we should think about. I mean, I don't see necessarily a problem with it, but just to put that out there, that was their recommendation.
That we should allow.
Should not allow.
Should not.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like still be shareable and things, but
Gotcha.
once the comments are out there, they're out there. And do you respond to them? What are you doing with them?
Right.
So
So
just put that.
to address some of that, the way that the district does it right now is that if we have something like this, that we can like leave it. What has happened so far is that people who like hey, that's my kid.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
and like sharing it, like,
Yeah.
what a cool photo, like that kind of thing. And then things that, like, when I share the board agenda, where I'm sharing something that's like informative, it becomes like, we don't need the commentary, like, this is just notification. And so that has been part of how that's worked out. Plus, behind the scenes, we have a essentially like the rules of interacting with our page. And so it's if you post something that meets these notification, like, we are able to pull it,
Okay.
that kind of situation. So you kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds that,
As long as you've
yeah.
thought about it and have a plan to address it, I think that's great.
I think it's probably a lot easier here than in a district like Mason High School, you know, where you've got all of those people all the time.
Mhm. No, It's still a lot of management though.
Yeah.
And we're intentional. We want to be responsive too. So I mean, this is certainly a priority for us. So we do spend the time to make sure.
Okay.
Your God out ahead of you is in here.
All right. No, I just mark it, how many pictures no one finds or something. I don't know who's in there more, your son or my daughter.
I
He's
know.
famous. He's so cute. Little Daryl's little faces all over the place. Oh.
Can I answer any questions? Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Are you gonna share those pictures with the yearbook people too?
Very
Because
good.
there's a lot of great ones in there.
nice.
Yeah. Yes,
Love
I
it.
am actually partnered with each of the yearbooks within the buildings. So as I take things, I just dump it in. Google
I'm sure they'll
Drive.
appreciate
all your
Yeah.
expertise and
Yeah.
your assistance.
There's also been some stuff where some of the yearbook students at high school have been like, oh, thank God you're here. My camera didn't load, whatever.
Very good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Love the rampage.
Thank you. Me too. It's something to, I look forward to it. Just kind of check it out and read it.
Yeah.
See what's on the agenda for the week.
That's the tone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good.
Great, awesome. This time we'll move to the treasurer's report. 1, approve the minutes from the regular board meeting, December 16th, 2021. 2, approve the December financial reports. 3, approve a then and now from Aveka in the amount of $5,928 for internet connectivity. 4, approve a then and now from Motivating Systems in the amount of $3,487.76 for the middle school. And 5, the tax budget for fiscal year 23.
I will move.
A second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
And now time for questions. Leave it to me. What is motivating systems?
Mr. Davis, do you know?
Oh, it wasn't a trick. I really was curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motivating system,
For the middle school.
you know. Ms. Reagan, I'll have to get back with you.
I'm sorry.
It's a minimal amount.
It's
I
a,
don't, I was checking. In the absence of Mr. McGrath, I'm
Oh,
not sure
sorry.
myself. That's okay. We'll find out. Uh-huh.
well, the then and now is when we're going back, right? We're adding more money to or changing where funds were allocated or something like that, or?
Well, a then and now is a purchase that is actually purchased after or before a requisition is submitted.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
To that point, I am hoping that we see fewer of those as we move forward, as I've observed many of them. Yeah, so that we get in front of the work and are a little more proactive. Sometimes things are unavoidable.
Sure.
yeah.
I can find out,
Any other
Angela.
Comments or questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it. I just haven't heard of it before.
All right, Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angela Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers,
Yeah,
Teresa Wallace.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 5-0.
This time we'll have the superintendent's update. 1, teaching and learning, 2, operations, and 3, facilities.
So I'll start with teaching and learning. We talked about at the last meeting how we were in the middle of our winter benchmarking. So we're finishing that up. And so teachers are going to be looking at really their fall data compared to their winter data and looking at where that growth is and where they still have skill gaps that they need to address. Recently, we knew it was coming. Ohio has put out their Dyslexia Guidebook, which is essentially telling us how we should be teaching the science of reading. This really aligns with really the literacy focus that we have in the district already of really looking at increasing literacy proficiency, kind of dovetails actually with work that we're already doing. It's not new information, but if schools aren't doing it, then here's another way to come at it from another angle to ensure that they're doing it. So again, it's just, especially in those younger grades, making sure that we are being intentional about teaching the science of reading, and especially with COVID right now, it's even more important that we are making sure that our literacy instruction is up to par. So it's a great guidance document. We'll take that as a win to really just reinforce work that should already be taking place in the first place. So just again, as an administrative team, I've talked about the buckets in the past, but really we've kind of narrowed it down to having conversations about 3 big goals. And one is improving literacy instruction. Another is looking at interventions and where we have skill gaps and how we can improve with interventions. And then also that social emotional piece and behavior interventions. And there's even some policy that is reinforced again, like PBIS and work that we're already currently doing to reinforce that. Facilities. So Mr. Billy Baker has hit the ground running. He has quickly acclimated himself with our facilities and our staff and our needs. A big one right now is as some of you are probably aware is at the elementary, those back rooms especially do not have heat. That is because that we are missing a piece to the control system, and that piece is on back order. So once this was brought to our attention quickly, of course, it's very cold right now, we put space heaters in those rooms. And
Well,
to
Brody
my-
told me about that today. He said that it's so warm, we have space heaters.
So
He was pretty excited about it.
Yeah, so I was getting ready to say it's taking the chill off the room,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's
he-
done more than take the chill off the room. It was needed. It's, it's unacceptable. But I will say that, we have a new service provider and REAK they've been here every day. They are very responsive. They check in with our principal, they check in with our maintenance supervisor. So I do feel good about the support that we're getting. They are band-aiding that situation until hopefully the tool can get, not the tool, but the part that they have and the tool that they need, that they can fix it. I didn't hear anything today. I'm going to assume it wasn't fixed today. So we're gonna hope for next week. We're ready to fill the fuel tank at the bus garage. That takes coordination of like 3 entities. I believe that is scheduled for Thursday. The bus trailer delivery, we're still planning on, like, everything seems to be on the right timeline thus far, that during spring break we'll be able to get the bus trailer back there. If that doesn't work out, we're not going to have students obviously in session. It would be May, summer, but we're shooting for spring break. We don't see why that's a problem yet. Middle school the playground's underway, so we're in much better shape there. Prodigy has fixed some projects with us. Specifically, there was an ionization project that was completed. But one of the things, like big things for us, is that really what we've determined is that many of our HVAC issues are because of the control systems. And so we really feel that there's an individual at Prodigy this is his expertise. In fact, Reek has even, we've even kind of talked with Reek, like, hey, we have an expert in the field here. And he's going to start with the high school, and he's really going to dig into the coding and all of the pieces that have gone into really the problems to diagnose that. I'll be honest with you, this could be expensive, but I also think that it is necessary so that we are able to determine the root of our issues and to fix the root instead of, kind of just getting by, patching season by season, which I'm not passing any, there's no judgment here. I mean, who knows where this is going, but so we have dedicated a person. Again, they're going to start at the high school, because if you remember back when it was hot in August, the high school was our biggest conundrum. So what we have going on at the elementary is problematic, but the high school would be the greater sense of urgency, with the controls. And then once we figure out what's going on there, hopefully we'll be able to use that knowledge in the other buildings where there are issues.
Yes, these HVAC systems now, it's not just the physical parts, it's definitely the controls that push the envelope, and it's not cheap.
Yeah,
It's
not
never
cheap.
been right in the high school.
Yeah.
So we're starting there, and like I said, the gentleman's name is Aaron, and I can't remember his last name, but it is his thing. It is his expertise. So I'm hopeful that he's able to at least give us the information that the board needs, especially to say, kind of where do we go from here. Kind of to the point, Jacob and I met with energy optimizers before winter break. And the individual we met with, we're hoping that we can kind of resolve this really on amicable terms, but we feel like there should be a reduction in payment from the total project for the pieces and parts that have not worked. And we identified the parts of that project that we felt like we should not be paying for. So right now we're in a place where I believe there's just one item we're having a bit of a disagreement on. I want to say there were 8 to 10 items that we brought to the table. There's one item that we're still in conversation about, but I'm hopeful that we can land in a good spot. That is ongoing. And I'll update you once I find that out. And, do we keep going then? Like once we take those pieces off the project, do we keep moving forward with our scheduled payments? If you want to take a different approach, that will certainly be up to you as well. But I'll keep you updated on that It's been a short stint here between the last board meeting and this one, but I was able to get in touch with Bricker and Eckler, who is our attorney provider for the board. They have a construction and facilities area of expertise, and I reached out to them to talk about how we kind of feel like we're in a place where it's time to move forward with both the field house, but also with master planning. And so what really are the appropriate next steps? And I got a pretty clear answer. So they advised that really it actually state statute that we follow what's called a qualifications-based selection process. So I'll say that again, a qualifications-based selection process. And essentially what you're doing is you are looking for a most qualified vendor company. And then after you determine who you feel is most qualified, then you work on like negotiating what that looks like, price, etc. So that is a little different from what might be the conception, which is kind of like a traditional competitive bidding, where everybody comes to the table with, here's my idea and here's my price. So I did want to share that with you. So it sounds like that the next step moving forward would be to do that qualified selection process. And so then once we find the company that we feel most comfortable with, Prodigy has done a lot of work in this district. Certainly Prodigy has equal opportunity to present themselves also as the most qualified company to be able to do the work. So that's where I am with that. I still feel like there's information moving forward. So we need to understand then what does that process look like, that selection process look like.
So then Sabrina, does that attorney that specializes in the facilities, do they give us like different names or that they recommend that we look
They
at?
can, I can as well. Really that's for, the board might say to me, we've used X, Y, and Z before. That might be I might come to the table and say, I know so-and-so that works at such company. Certainly Prodigy has done work in the district. Or
But by the
if
same
we're-
respect, it could be, we've heard this about this company, so
Yeah,
let's
there's-
not go this route.
There's some of that
Okay.
too. Yeah. So it really is like, hey, we have a project, we have an interest. Who feels like they're qualified to be able to do that project for us? So they will also find us where they see a project. But at the end of the day, yes, they certainly know who's who among the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes the facilities piece. So kind of jumping into, are there any comments? I mean, it's not really a question and answer, I guess. That was a lot of information on facilities. Operations, a little lighter note, our second newsletter went out today and we'll be hitting home soon. I know something that's always on everyone's mind is what the school calendar is going to look like next year. So we're hoping to convene the school calendar committee here soon, working with Mr. Hook to get that accomplished. And obviously COVID right now is really the biggest piece here. I've included numbers here from yesterday, and I know they've jumped from yesterday, but yesterday we had 2 teachers test positive that are tested positive. We have 18 positive students, and we had 27 quarantines. Our positives jumped today. I want to say they might have been pushing 30. They are close. I will say these are the highest positive numbers that we've had since September, back when we also, kind of had to make a shift there. But the quarantines are very different because we are following the mask to stay, test to play, policy or guidelines, I should say. They're not policies. So, students who are not positive are still at school, and we are really maintaining our athletic programs as best as possible. To kind of speak to what our attendance looks like, to yesterday, again, I don't have today's, but yesterday our attendance was 10% absence at the elementary, 13% absence at the middle school, and 13% absent at the high school. Those numbers were much worse in the fall. Of course, we were quarantining at that time. And also really, once you start to get into the 18, 19, 20% range, that's where you really start looking at whether you may need to close. I would say for us, it's really been about staff and coverage. I think at the elementary, Monday, especially Monday and Tuesday, we were, coverage we were able to cover. And then at our middle school and high school, I would say Wednesday might have been a day that we were able to cover again, but it was uncomfortable. A little bit improvement. No, that was Tuesday. So Wednesday and then today. And we are anticipating that things will be okay tomorrow in terms of staff. And I haven't heard anything yet. So I know some schools are closing tomorrow. For the most part, I would say that is because of staff absences or, and of course, I understand that we could pick up a day, but very much the mentality, I've been in constant communications with our administrators, is that we're using, we are maintaining, we want to continue with our routines. We want to continue being in person. On multiple occasions, I've reached out to, our athletic director and our high school principal too about athletics. We do have some sports where there've been higher numbers, and they have maintained that as that they want to, as long as they can compete, we don't want to be irresponsible, but as long as we can compete, we would like to continue to play. And so I support that, and I hope that we are. I hope that we are at at the top of it, and I hope it begins to. I hope we're begin to move in another direction. And so kind of following on that too. We're doing what we can to maintain athletics, and similarly goes for our events, whether they're inside school, internally or externally. For example, I know there was a talent show assembly at the high school, and Mr. Kasner, the administrators there, through conversations, we could do this virtually. So sometimes there's a virtual option. Sometimes we can social distance better. So just looking at really each individual situation on a case-by-case basis, and what are the mitigation, how can we still have the event, but what are some mitigation things that we can do to continue to have it so we're not canceling and whatnot. So I think so. We'll be at school tomorrow, and we'll see how the weekend goes. We do have a 3-day weekend. As I had shared previously, we did kind of tighten up our check-in, check-out procedures at our building. You simply have to show ID if you're going to enter the building or if you're going to pick up a student. I do want to clarify, there was no event that triggered this. This was just a natural, hey, we need to improve this process kind of thing. And actually, like the timing is interesting, but we've been working on, and I've shared with you, we've really been working on like our crisis prevention. Anyway, well, last Friday there was a countywide, which I appreciated, a countywide threat assessment meeting where we all just kind of had conversation and got on the same page, whether that be, say, the public schools, but also law enforcement, but also the county prosecutor, as well as what interventions are available. So that was good. We sent a team there, had good conversation there. And then just yesterday, this has already been scheduled. And in fact, it's mandatory at the state of Ohio. We had threat assessment training where we also had teams, our threat assessment teams attend a training that I believe was really highly valuable. So we're feeling really good about really where we are. And so those are just some of the pieces that have been happening lately. Again, the timing's interesting. It was already in the plans, but I just, feel confident about our processes. And actually the presenter yesterday made comments about really some of the great things that we were doing in the district, and we're really on the right track. So I wanted to share that with you. I did want to thank, I'm going to close out here a little bit. I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday and got their rest and rejuvenation for the rat race coming back. Mr. Kinzel, thank you for being here in the office and by my side as we transition through this particular phase. And I would also like to congratulate our Board of Education, as January is Board Recognition Month. So if you will, I have certificates, and actually let me do that first. Ms. Suzanne Arthur.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
They all passed.
Mr. Pat, they passed. I was like,
She's missing one.
I am.
It's mine.
I am. It's Meg. No, I've got it. I think Mr. Powers, Ms. Reagan, Ms. Smith,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Wallace.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had enough. Here we go. Yeah, I just. So bear with me. I think it's worth reading. January is School Board Recognition Month, and this is a time to say thank you to our school board members and to demonstrate how we work together to provide leadership in our schools. The school board works closely with educators, parents, community members to create the vision that we want for our students. It sets the course for an adequate and equitable educational program for our students. And school board members exemplify local citizen control and decision-making in education. These elected individuals establish the policies that provide the framework for our public school. They represent us and they take their responsibility seriously. I know that. The school board is also accountable to the public, overseeing regular assessment of the district's students, staff, and programs. Our school board is one of more than 700 such boards across the state, and these boards enable us to have local control of public schools, meaning that decisions on school programming are made by local elected representatives who understand our community's unique problems, values, cultures, and circumstances. With the advice and counsel of the educational professionals that they hire, they help provide for an education system that meets the needs of today's and tomorrow's students. They care about our children, and for their dedication, we take this opportunity to show them our appreciation. Thank you. Show my appreciation during School Board Recognition Month. A special thank you to Suzanne Arthur, almost 8 years on the school board. Scott Powers, 12 years. Ms. Angela Reagan, 5 years. Ms. Smith, welcome to the party. And Teresa Wallace, 6 years. So congratulations again. I appreciate you.
It's very nice of you.
Thank you. Thank
We appreciate you as well.
I have one more piece for you. We've been talking about in our administrative meetings about how, we're not getting much relief here during these challenging times with COVID. And really I am amazed every day about how this community and our staff, from teachers to classified staff, across the board, about how we're rallying and providing coverage and really doing everything possible to ensure that we are at school, that kids are still participating in their activities. And so the word for me that comes to mind that I've been sharing with the administrative team is how much they give me hope. And how much hope I know that they provide their building. So when times are hard, it's kind of hard, it's hard to think to the future. But certainly, again, what comes to mind with our administrators and with our team is that they inspire me. And so one of the books that I had picked up that was already a part of the district and some of the work that has happened at administrative level is this strengths-based leadership. And just to kind of cut to the chase, there are really 4 qualities that followers, if you will, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but those who are looking for leadership, look for in a leader are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And so if I may read just a small excerpt here, because I think it's fitting during this month also to share with you. It appears that followers want stability in the moment, and hope for the future. Followers also mention the words like they need direction, faith, and guidance when describing this basic need. But when the Gallup poll studied the impact that leaders can have through an organization, the single most powerful question we asked employees was whether their company's leadership made them feel enthusiastic about the future. Based on their data, it appeared that this may be the one area in which higher level leaders can have the most influence in their organization. Instilling hope may seem like an obvious requirement for leading people. Hope gives followers something to look forward to, and it helps them see a way through chaos and complexity. Knowing that things will be better in the future is a powerful motivator. When hope is absent, people lose confidence, they disengage, and they often feel helpless. This makes the role of an organizational leader even more important during difficult times. When solving difficult problems, it is an essential part of effective leadership. Identifying opportunities for the future plays a much important role in creating hope and optimism. Of the greatest challenges for leaders is to initiate new effort that will create substantial growth. If as a leader, you are not creating hope and helping people see the way forward, chances are no one else is either. And so for that, as a part of our team here in this district, I know that working with you, again, only fitting during School Board Recognition Month, that I know that you will work with us and our staff and our community and continue to inspire hope and opportunity in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Madam
so
President,
much.
that
Thank you so
concludes
much.
my superintendent's update. You're welcome.
May I ask a question about some of what you said about? It's very easy.
Okay,
You
yeah.
mentioned there's a calendar committee looking at the upcoming school year.
Yeah.
Is there input that parents can give to that?
It's typically a part of teacher representation and administrative representation. So
Doesn't
at
it,
the same time, I am always available for individuals to offer feedback.
So I just send you an email and my thoughts on something.
doesn't it tie in with their contract negotiations as well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
does.
part of that. Yeah.
Unions.
I'm just looking at from the parent point of view. I mean, one of the reasons we love Greeneview is it's an ag community, and that means a large portion, I would assume, and I don't have numbers, obviously, I would think a lot of our kids are participating with fair.
Yeah.
And you go from, these kids put in a lot of work to get fair, you get through fair, and it's a lot of fun, but it's exhausting. And then you barely have time to try to have a little family time or get those school supplies and you're at school. It's just,
Okay, all right, thank you. Right now we'll move on to new business.
There's that.
Did you want to
Question.
comment?
Oh,
Mr.
I'm
Nolan?
sorry.
I don't want to comment. I wanted to know if I could address Angela's question.
Sure.
That's PBIS rewards for the middle school. I didn't recognize the name.
Oh, from
PBI
earlier.
Motivating systems, yes.
Motivating
Oh,
systems.
look at it. They're back there.
PBIS.
I'm sorry. So the $3,400 was what triggered the memory. I believe that's Mrs. Calvert.
Wonderful.
Did the requisition. I believe it's that we contracted for 3 additional years at a savings for the district to continue with PBIS rewards. And because of the impact that PBIS is having on our students and the fact that it's pretty much mandated by the states,
Mhm.
that we're to enter be entering tier 2 next year with PBIS is pretty much a necessity, and it's made things easy for teachers. So it's a good.
That makes a lot
It's a
more
good
sense.
thing.
I appreciate that very much.
You're
Thank you.
And it was a tech tool. In my defense, it was related to tech.
They've been sitting back in the corner.
I know, there.
And the playground is so close. We've got
Uh-huh.
the gravel down, the landscape cloth is going down, and they have to bring in an additional 20 tons of gravel. So landscape probably maybe tomorrow, and if we can beat the snow on Sunday, they're looking at putting the mulch down. And we should be
S word.
using that playground equipment pretty quickly. So
Right, can't say the S word.
Can I ask, was the middle school able or allowed to purchase a second Gaga pit?
So we don't want to get the cart in front of the horse. Obviously, there are a lot of positives for having a second, but we feel like we need to complete a project
Yeah.
before we move to the next. So we have plans. We've looked at, spacing as far as where it would go, but I think we need to finish the one and maybe look at strategically placing the Gaga pits, in summer when school's out and kids aren't there. But we have discussed it. We have room for 2. That's where we're at.
Okay. no,
Did you
that's
just
great,
ask
thank
what that
you.
was?
No,
No,
I
they
said
had-
they're very popular.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did a presentation and those kids were
The
excited.
excitement amongst our youngsters was
When
just
I watch
really
them,
incredible.
I wonder how they get out of there, alive,
Yeah,
but they love it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. Number 1, approve the MOU for reserve custodian. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
So this is the same idea as the reserve bus drivers, that it's kind of like it's kind of like a permanent sub, but it has the benefits of being within the contract and hopefully is more enticing for a custodian. It can also kind of serve as a feeder program, if you will. So, if you get the reserve custodian job, which is guaranteed the minimum 20 hours, you're learning the facilities, you're learning, you're developing relationships, so it might help you when a full-time job becomes available. Like every other district, we're struggling to cover for our custodial shifts.
Basically an internship.
All right, Suzanne Arthur,
Yes.
Angel Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yeah,
Teresa Wallace.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Now on to personnel. Number 1, approve Jacinda Wilson, Title I teacher at middle school, effective January 17, 2022, step 0 for the 2021-2022 school year. Number 2, approve the following supplemental positions for the 2021-2022 school year. Kyle Falk, 9th grade boys basketball. And then we have on the addendum, number 3, approve the following substitute teacher, Julia Weiser.
I'll move.
Motion. Okay, Scott, thank you. Second,
I'll second.
thank you. Call the roll.
Suzanne Arthur.
Yes.
Angel Reagan.
Yes.
Megan Smith,
Yes.
Scott Powers.
Yeah.
Teresa Wallace.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And then, do we have any
No.
discussion,
There are no discussion.
comments or questions? And then at this time, we will go into executive session
At 7:56.
to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee or official. And that there will be no business after
Move.
the executive session.
I'll second.